It's time to pick our manager of the season. There's four names written in front of me, and I agree with all of them. But let's start with Eddie Howe, winning a trophy at Newcastle. Alan Shearer having that incredible reaction told you how much it meant to that football club. First trophy in over 50 years, and Champions League football. He's got to be a contender.
I think he's been massively, massively underrated for the last few seasons. Obviously, they came fourth. I think they were pretty good in the Champions League. I know they didn't get out of the group, but they played well. Seventh last year, probably third or fourth this year, and bringing a trophy to Newcastle is an unbelievable job. And I've said it a lot before. I think they've got a real quality midfield. I think they've got an unbelievable midfield, and they've got Isak. But I think you look at the fringe players there and you look at how well Eddie Howe has got the likes of Dan Burn playing. Jacob Murphy scores or assists in every single game. This is not that quality of player who should be doing that in the Champions League. All due respect for him. And it's Eddie Howe that is the reason that they are doing that. The fact that they've been bought over by Saudis and there's been very little, if any, talk whatsoever about replacing Eddie Howe shows how much they rate him, because they could go for anyone. There was talk at the beginning of fans wanting Jose Mourinho. Eddie Howe has done a much better job than even Mourinho would have done. And I think he's been massively underrated.
Yeah, I completely agree. And let's look at the summer, right? It's easy to forget. They didn't bring in anyone. Asula, that was it. Missed out on Mark Gahey. There's talks about Eddie Howe's future, whether he's going to get on with the new director of football. And he has just done his job. And he has exceeded expectations. They've won a trophy. At the time of recording, they sit third in the Premier League. They are one of the best teams in the league, and you see it every time they play one of the top sides. They either take them to town or they give them a good game. They're such a good side, and like you mentioned, they've got real quality there as well. And Eddie Howe, maybe because he is English and maybe because he hasn't got an accent, we don't give him the respect that he deserves. But he's one of the best managers in the Premier League, hands down. He deserves a lot of credit.
He's done well. He's got to keep hold of Isak, I think. If they lose Isak, then I think the story might be very different next season. Next is Arne Slot. First season walks in. We've spoken about this so much, I don't need to go on about it too much in this one. It's pretty obvious why he's there. Comes in for Klopp. Our producer just said, and we're going to talk about Forest in a second, but the jump from 17th to 4th, or Champions League for Forest, was larger than what it was for Slot. And then me and you both said, winning the league, when most people expected Liverpool to finish 4th, maybe 3rd.
I mean, I've said it so many times. Coming in after Klopp is an untenable job. It's really difficult. He bought just Chiesa and they've won the league and they've won it at a canter and they've played fantastic football. As I said in an earlier video, he's played his style of football with someone else's team, which is incredibly impressive anyway. And I think, okay, 17th to 4th is a bigger jump in the table. No one, including the most fervent of Liverpool fans, thought that they would win the league this year, especially when they didn't sign anyone. And he's gone and won it at an absolute canter against a 7th year or 8th year Mikel Arteta project, against Pep Guardiola's Manchester City, who then spent 200 million quid in January, and that wasn't enough to get anywhere near on a Slot side. I think he deserves a massive amount of credit.
No, yeah, I echo the sentiments. He's done a fantastic job. Won the league in his first season in England. I've said it before, though. Managers have done that before. It's about what you do in your second year. But in terms of giving the award out for Manager of the Year, it's almost impossible to look past the person who wins the league.
Oh, well, Nuno Espirito Santo gains a lot of votes from people. There will be potentially in Europe next season from 17th to Europe. That is a climb, to be fair. To him, and they've also, I think, actually been relatively good to watch. I think a lot of people have criticised him previously for being a boring manager. I think combining good to watch with the fact that they were pushing in the Champions League for most of the season, and they're probably going to lose a few of their star players, which means he's done pretty well. It's pretty good as well. I think he's the main contender for me alongside Slot.
Yeah, he's bucked a lot of trends, and those tricky trees are hard for everybody to play against. You come up against Nottingham Forest, you know you're in for a game. You look at Espirito Santo, and I think people forgot that he's a good manager, right? Like, at Wolves, he did lead them to a place in the Europa League. I know that it didn't go well at Spurs, but apart from Ange Postecoglou, who's done a good job at Spurs, in recent years. But you look at Nuno and what he's done with this Forest side, and I think last week highlighted how difficult it can be politically at Forest with an owner like Marinakis who likes to get involved, let's say. But he's done a very good job, and I think he deserves all the credit in the world. And two of these managers, if you go to my pre-season picks, I had Liverpool to finish outside of the top 4, and I had Forest to go down. And the two managers of those sides, Arne Slot and Nuno Espirito Santo, are two of the managers this season. What do I know, eh?
I think you might have talked yourself out of a job for next season, to be honest. Fourth on the list, a surprising name, but to be fair, he took over with Wolves 19th in the league, 10 wins, 2 draws in 18 games. Rui Pereira. I think Wolves have been good as well. Like, yes, there is the tax that the bottom 3 have been particularly bad this season. So Wolves are always going to stay up, but the fact he's come in and done a good job, considering where they're at,
I think he's done a good job. I don't think he should be on the list. I think he's done a good job with probably a slightly limited squad, apart from one real top quality player. But I also think it comes down to how poor a job the previous manager was doing. I don't think Wolves should have been in that position anyway. I think there's just enough quality there compared to the other teams around them. You mentioned the bottom 3. Of course, you've had Spurs and Manchester United playing absolutely horrifically in the league. And I just think he's done a good job. It'd be interesting to see what happens next year. But I think he shouldn't be on the list.
Quick question. Let's imagine he was in the job for a full season and performed exactly like this. I've done the maths. It'd be they'd win 20 games, 4 draws, meaning they'd be on 64 points with 2 games spare. He would probably be manager of the season if he does this next season.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about manager of the
He's
season.
been eyeing up the Premier League for a long time. He's Pereira. He talked about how he had the opportunity maybe to go to Everton a few years ago and it didn't really work out. But he's been looking at it for the longest time. And look at this Wolves team that, you're right, they do maybe lack the talent of some of the teams above them in the Premier League. Think about that block of teams like Fulham, Brentford, Brighton, Bournemouth. Wolves don't have that quality, especially losing players in the summer, lost the likes of Pedro Neto, Max Kilman. But they've got an X factor in Teres Cunha, who is, sorry Wolves fans, maybe too good for that team. And he's dragged them to points under Rui Pereira. And he deserves so much credit because under Gary O'Neill, despite the fact that he was liked, things weren't going well and Wolves did look like they were relegation fodder. The fact that Pereira's come in and has not compromised his style of football. He's come in and said, I'm going to play my style and it's going to work. And the fact that it has worked and they're finishing ahead of teams like Manchester United and Spurs this season, yeah, he deserves a lot of credit.